Every morning at sunrise, Henry walked down the same narrow road, carrying a single white envelope in his wrinkled hand. His steps were slow, but steady, like a man who had long made peace with the pain that lived beside him. Inside that envelope was a letter, always written to the same person, his late wife, Lily. 20 years had passed since the day she left this world, but for Henry, time had stood still. He never stopped writing. Every Sunday, he'd sit by the window, pour himself a cup of tea, and write as if she were still sitting across from him. "Dear Lily," he would begin, "the roses bloomed early this year. You would have loved their color." He told her everything about the changing seasons, the neighbor's new dog, the birds that built a nest near her favorite tree. He told her how he missed the way she hummed when she cooked, how her laughter filled their home, and how quiet it had become without her. Soft violin melody begins, "The letters were never mailed to an address." He simply walked to the postbox at the end of the lane and slipped them inside, whispering, "This one's for you, my love." It became a ritual, his way of surviving. Each letter was a piece of his heart, written to a woman who could no longer reply. Years went by, the hair turned silver, the hands that once held hers now trembled with age, but still he wrote. Then, one cold morning in winter, something changed. As Henry opened his mailbox, he found a letter waiting for him. The handwriting was neat, unfamiliar, but it was addressed to him. He stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside it read, "Dear Henry, I hope this letter doesn't frighten you. My name is Emily. I live 2 streets away. My grandmother used to watch you walk to that mailbox every Sunday. When she passed, I moved into her house, and I began noticing you too. One day, curiosity led me to follow. I asked at the post office. They told me your letters were never delivered. They stayed here, tucked in an old drawer like memories waiting to be found. I read one, then another, and I couldn't stop crying. Your words, they weren't just love letters. They were proof that real love never dies. I lost someone too, years ago. Your letters reminded me that love can still live on, in words, in memories, in the spaces between heartbeats. Thank you, Henry. You don't know me, but you've healed a part of me I thought was gone. Signed, Emily." Pause, emotional silence. Henry's hands trembled as he read the letter again and again. Tears streamed down his face, not of sadness, but of something deeper, peace. He realized then that his words hadn't been lost. They had found a home, not in heaven, but in another broken heart that needed them. That evening, he sat by the window once more and began to write. "Dear Emily, I wrote to Lily for 20 years because I didn't know how to stop loving her. But today, I learned something new. Love doesn't end. It just changes who it speaks to. Thank you for listening. Thank you for writing back." He folded the letter gently, placed it on the table, and smiled. For the first time in 20 years, Henry felt that maybe Lily had written back, through someone else's hands. Because sometimes, love doesn't return the way we expect, but it always finds its way home. Read for 20 long years, the town's old postman, Mr. Daniels, carried a secret. Every Monday morning, like clockwork, he would see Henry, the quiet widower at the end of Maple Street, walking toward the postbox. Same time, same routine, a letter clutched tightly in his hand. The envelope was always addressed the same way, "To my beloved Lily." No street, no number, no city, just her name. At first, the postman thought it was a mistake, but when it happened again and again, he realized it was something sacred. Something only Henry understood. He never questioned it. He simply collected the letters and stored them in a small wooden drawer behind the counter, the drawer no one ever opened. Henry had lost his wife, Lily, to illness 2 decades ago. They had been married for 40 beautiful years, years filled with laughter, shared meals, and the kind of love that survives in silence. After she passed, he couldn't bear to let her memory fade. So he wrote every week, pouring his heart into every line. "Dear Lily," he'd begin, "today the garden bloomed again. Your roses are still the brightest. Sometimes, I swear I can hear your laughter in the wind." The postman often watched from a distance as Henry dropped the letter into the red box and walked home slowly, wiping his eyes. To the world, it looked like madness, but to Mr. Daniels it looked like love in its purest form. Soft emotional piano intensifies slightly, then one winter morning, Henry didn't come. The mailbox stayed empty, days passed, then weeks. Mr. Daniels began to worry. Finally, he walked to Henry's little house at the edge of town. The door was slightly open. Inside, he found Henry sitting by the fireplace, pale but peaceful, a half-written letter on his lap. Did she ever get them? Henry asked weakly. The postman didn't know how to answer. He looked at the hundreds of envelopes in his drawer, the ones that never had a destination. He hesitated, then said softly, "Yes, Henry, she did. Every single one." Henry smiled faintly. "Good, then I can rest now." And with that, he closed his eyes, a gentle smile frozen on his face, as if Lily had finally come to take him home. Pa's piano fades to silence that night. Mr. Daniels took out the drawer full of letters. He sat under a dim lamp, reading them one by one. By the time dawn broke, tears had soaked the paper. The next morning, he wrote a letter of his own, the first he'd written in years. "Dear Henry, your words were never lost. They reached every soul who believed in love, and every heart that forgot how to feel. Lily may not have received your letters in the mail, but she received them in the wind, in the stars, in every person you touched. Thank you for reminding us that true love never ends." He sealed the envelope, walked to Henry's empty mailbox, and placed it inside. Soft instrumental rises warm tone from that day on. The townsfolk noticed something new. Every Sunday, a fresh white rose appeared on Henry's grave, always accompanied by a single envelope. No one ever saw who left them, but the postman knew. He kept his promise to keep delivering love, one letter at a time. Because sometimes love doesn't need an address. It only needs a heart that still believes. Read for 20 years, Henry wrote letters to the same woman, his late wife, Lily. Every Sunday, without fail, he'd sit by the window, pour himself a cup of tea, and begin. "Dear Lily," he'd write, "I miss you today, just like I did yesterday and every day before that." His handwriting grew shakier with time, his words slower, his sentences shorter, but his love never faded. The letters became his way of surviving the loneliness, of speaking to a heart that no longer beat, but never stopped being his. He'd fold each letter neatly, walk down the street, and slip it into the old postbox. He knew they'd never be delivered. But it didn't matter. The act of writing was the message. Soft emotional violin joins in then, one morning, everything changed. Henry opened his mailbox and found an envelope waiting for him. It was addressed to him. The handwriting was elegant but unfamiliar. He hesitated, his heart trembling in disbelief. He hadn't received a personal letter in years. Finally, he opened it. Inside it read, "Dear Henry, you don't know me, but I know your letters. My name is Claire, and I work at the old post office in town. A few months ago, I discovered a dusty box of undelivered mail. While cleaning the storage room, inside were dozens of your letters all addressed to Lily, with no return address. I read one, then two, then three, and I couldn't stop crying. Your words reminded me of my fiancé, Daniel. He passed away before we could get married. For years I couldn't talk about him, couldn't feel anything. But your letters brought him back to me, not in flesh, but in memory. You reminded me that love doesn't die. It just changes form. Thank you, Henry. Claire." Music softens slow emotional tone. Henry sat there, stunned. Someone had found his words. Someone had heard his love. For the first time in 20 years, he felt seen, not as a lonely old man writing to a ghost, but as a person still capable of love, still capable of meaning. That evening, he took out his old pen, the same one Lily had given him on their anniversary, and began a new letter. Dear Claire, for years, I wrote to Lily because I didn't know what else to do with all the love I had left. It comforted me to imagine she might be reading them somewhere, smiling like she used to. But now I realize love doesn't just belong to one person. It lives on when we share it. Thank you for writing back. Thank you for reminding me that even after loss, hearts can still find each other. He sealed the envelope carefully and smiled for the first time in a long while. Over the next few months, Henry and Claire exchanged letters often. They never met in person, but through those pages they healed together, one heart speaking to another through the language of grief and grace. Soft piano swells gently, and one spring morning, Henry wrote his final letter. Dear Claire, if you're reading this, it means I've finally gone to where Lily is. But I want you to know something. Your kindness brought me peace. You gave my words a home, and for that, I'll always be grateful. Please keep writing to whoever needs it next. Love always, Henry. Claire placed that letter beside the old mailbox, tears in her eyes. The wind carried it away, as if Lily herself had come to take it. Because sometimes, when we write to the ones we've lost, someone else finds the words they need to be found. Love letter. When the old post office in Willow Creek shut down, a young journalist named Anna was sent to cover the story. The building had stood for nearly a century, its walls filled with the ghosts of letters, love, and lost time. Boxes of forgotten mail sat stacked in the corner, each envelope yellowed with age. As Anna sorted through them, one small bundle caught her eye, tied together with a red ribbon. On each envelope, written in delicate cursive, were the words, "To my dearest Lily." There were hundreds of them, each one addressed without an address, no city, no number, just love. Curiosity turned into something deeper. She untied the ribbon and began to read. The first letter was dated 20 years ago. Dear Lily. It began, I miss the way you used to hum while making tea. The house is quiet now, but I still make 2 cups, just in case you come home. Tears welled in Anna's eyes. She kept reading letter after letter, year after year, and slowly pieced together the story of Henry, a man who refused to stop loving, even after death had taken his wife away. Soft emotional strings build slightly. Each letter captured a season of his grief, the early ones full of longing, the middle ones filled with memories, and the later ones quiet, reflective, accepting. He wrote about growing older without her, about the garden they planted together, about their favorite song still playing on the old radio. But every letter ended the same way. Until we meet again, Henry. Anna couldn't stop thinking about it. She spent days researching, trying to find the man behind the handwriting. But by the time she did, it was too late. Henry had passed away 2 years earlier, peacefully in his sleep. He was 86. Soft violin joins the melody sombertone. Anna decided to share his story. She published an article titled, "The Man Who Wrote to His Late Wife for 20 Years." She included quotes from his letters and a photo of the red ribbon that had held them together. What she didn't expect was what happened next. Within days, her inbox was flooded not with comments, but with letters. From people all over the world, letters from widows and widowers, letters from children who'd lost their parents, letters from people who'd never said "I love you" when they had the chance. They all wrote to say the same thing. Henry's love had reached them. His words had reminded them that love doesn't end with goodbye. Anna decided to honor him. She created an exhibit at the local library called Letters to Lily. Each visitor could read Henry's letters and write one of their own to someone they'd lost. By the end of the first week, the walls were covered. Thousands of notes, confessions, goodbyes, and I miss yous. Henry's love had found a home, not in the mailbox where he'd left it, but in the hearts of strangers who needed to believe in love again. And one evening, as Anna locked up, she noticed a new envelope on the desk. It read, "To Henry from Lily." She opened it, her hands trembling. Inside was a single sentence, "Thank you for loving me enough to never stop writing." Anna smiled through her tears. Maybe someone left it as a tribute, or maybe some love stories truly do find their way home, because love, real love, doesn't disappear. It just waits for someone to open the letter. Love letter for 20 years, Henry had written the same letter. Different words, same purpose. Each began the same way, "Dear Lily." It had been 2 decades since she left, but to him it felt like yesterday. He still remembered her laughter echoing down the hallway, the scent of her favorite perfume, the way her fingers brushed his when she passed him a cup of tea. Every Sunday afternoon, Henry would sit at his old oak desk, the one they bought together when they first married, and write to her. Sometimes it was a memory, sometimes it was a wish, sometimes just silence written in ink. He always ended with, "Until we meet again, my love." He never knew what happened to those letters. He'd slip them into the mailbox, imagining they'd travel through the wind, somehow, someway, to where she was. Soft violin joins in melancholic but peaceful tone, but on a quiet spring morning, everything changed. Henry woke to find an envelope on his doorstep. It had no stamp, no postmark, just his name, Henry Bennett, written in delicate handwriting he hadn't seen in 20 years. His heart skipped, his hands trembled as he picked it up. The paper felt old and familiar. He sat down slowly, his breath shaky, and opened it. Inside, in the same graceful script he had memorized long ago, were the words, "My dearest Henry, I've read every letter. Every word you wrote reached me, not through paper or ink, but through love. You never needed a mailbox to find me, my dear. I was always there, in the sunlight that warmed your hands, in the rain that kissed your garden, in the quiet moments when you thought you were alone. You kept your promise, you never stopped writing, and every word reminded me why I loved you then, and why I still love you now. But now it's time to rest. Your letters have reached the destination. You've given enough love to fill lifetimes. Close your eyes, my love. You'll see me again soon. Lily." Long pause, only soft piano playing. Tears blurred Henry's vision as he read the letter again and again. His heart ached, but not with sorrow. It was peace, the kind of peace that comes when love has done its duty. He placed the letter beside his favorite photograph, the one of Lily in her yellow dress, smiling beneath the summer sun. Then he took out his pen one last time. "Dear Lily," he wrote, "I finally heard back from you. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for loving me even beyond this life. I'll be home soon." He sealed it gently and placed it beside her letter. Then he leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and smiled. Soft orchestral swell peaceful tone the next morning. The postman found him there, calm, still, and serene, with the 2 letters resting on his lap. One from him, one from her. 2 hearts that had finally reunited beyond time, beyond distance. At his funeral, the priest read both letters aloud. Everyone wept, not from sadness, but from the beauty of a love that had refused to die. And as the wind carried the petals of white lilies into the sky, it felt as if the world itself was whispering their story. Love never leaves. It only changes address. Love letter.